And welcome back to the Diamond Lane. I'm your host, Sarah Jo, here on Classic 107 in Winnipeg. And this weekend, tomorrow night and Saturday, you can catch, as part of the organ spectacular, Jean-Marie Zeitouni, guest conductor who has been here in Winnipeg before and so warmly received. He is back to conduct Brahms, Saint-Saëns, and Joseph Jongen. Welcome to the Diamond Lane, Maestro Zeitouni. It's so good to have you.
Very happy to be here.
Thank you for joining us. So, hey, welcome back to Winnipeg. This is very exciting. Last time you were here, I saw you conducting Stravinsky and Estasio and the Hummel Trumpet Concerto.
Yes.
I loved the Stravinsky. It was like probably my favorite thing all season.
Good.
Really great.
Thank you.
So tell us what your adventures are, where your adventures are taking you right now. Colorado, you're still in Montreal. Tell us about what you're doing these days.
Well, these days, besides taking care of my wonderful daughter, which is the main focus, I'm involved. I'm music director in Boulder, Colorado, for a nice entity called Colorado Music Festival. I'm still music director of Musici de Montreal as well. And I keep traveling and guest conducting, not as much as before, because of course positions, will make you sedentary a bit. But I'm going to have this winter my Moscow debut at the Philharmonic.
Congrats.
I'm going to go at my debut in Paris at the Théâtre des Champs-Élysées, a tour of Europe with Marie-Nicole Lemieux, wonderful Canadian contralto. And, guest conducting the usual. I have a good relationship with a number of orchestras, including Winnipeg, of course, but elsewhere in Canada. I'm going back to Edmonton as well, Quebec City. I'm going to spend a bit of time in the U.S. on the West Coast, Oregon, Seattle, California. Nice diversity. Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, I hope you get to perform some repertoire that is of your essence. I mean, looking at the season of Musici de Montréal, I was just looking and I was telling you just before we started how creative the programming is. Each little pocket is just so beautifully inspired and themed. Tell us about how you choose a program for a season as a director of such a great ensemble.
Well, some of it is obviously by personality and by taste, but some of it is also by necessity, so to speak. I think that the days where we'll have a regular menu of ouverture, concerto, symphony. I think that these days are, getting to an end, and not because they aren't good choice. I mean, I'm a music lover already, and I'm looking what's on the menu to decide if I'm going to go or not. But putting myself in the shoes of somebody who has, for example, in Montreal, 100 different entertainment options every night of the year.
Yeah.
What angle can I give them to lure people to come? And so I find that building themes around concerts that actually make the concert more coherent because there are connection between pieces, composers. Sometimes the connection is more poetic, sometimes it's more historical, sometimes it is musical, but to get all different angles for people to grasp what they're about to, I'm going to say to eat, but to hear, obviously. But for me, there's really a combination or a connection to do, just like a chef in a restaurant will try to give you an experience that goes from the appetizers to the desserts, and there's the more attention you put in the small things, I think that the more the whole experience is nice. So that's really the approach I have. I will pick something that's happening into town, or probably an affinity that I have with a composer or a writer or a period or a country, etc., and try to draw the interest of people by offering this. It's really a composite of works mixed with commentary as well, because I really believe that it's important to help people develop their relationship with the music. For some, it goes without saying. Some people are even, will say, well, don't talk to me, just I want to listen and make my own idea. But I find that it's a bit of introduction also is really welcome. So work with many different pots on the stoves, and eventually it comes all together in a coherent ensemble.
With that planning that you do, does it also allow you to take directions that you might not take during, say, a larger orchestral season? Are you allowed to take more risks when you have that attachment to some kind of thematic center?
I think so. I mean, it's a matter of balance. But I find, for example, in regards to newer works and just as an aside, last weekend we had concert with Musici, and we played two major pieces from Canadian composers, André Prévost and Jacques Etu. One of the work was from 1960 and one from 1994. They are not new works. They are, for musicians, for us, they are almost like quasi-classical repertoire of the Canadian realm. But they can still be challenging nonetheless. But I think we are at a point where doing a theme like this will help me. For example, last weekend was about pairing composers in a concert that was involving guitar. So I had pairs of friends composer, and it happened that Jacques Etu and André Prévost were roommates in their college days, and they had a salon at home where they had music improvising and all sorts of woodwind quintet practice, etc. So I took that as my, not the main subject of the concert, of course, but as a thread to talk about friendship, to talk about affinity, to talk about this, and to bring it out in the music. And so I was able to play a good half hour of Canadian 20th century music, and it was in the context where it became very easy to absorb. And same goes for works that are much newer, which works composed last year or last week, being able to serve them in connection with a reference that we all have. Yes. So, to mix it with Mozart at the same time makes it easier in a way to do, but you don't improvise those things. It needs to be with something that will resonate with an audience member, that these people are not taken from granted. They are not, these are intelligent people. They just need a little bit of support, I would say, right. To be able to context. And then when you unveil those connections, it becomes clear
and magical in moments. Yeah. Truly. Okay, so we're going to break for music. We're going to have a little Milonga dell'Angel from Astor Piazzolla. Yes. You with Les Violons du Roi. When did you make this recording?
That was, I think, 10 years ago now, 2006, and it was a beautiful project. We actually won the Juno of the Classical Album of the Year for that recording. That was my first professional recording as a conductor, so there's some special
I didn't know that.
And that was we had this Piazzolla repertory, and I actually arranged that Milonga dell'Angel to do it with piano and orchestra and string orchestra, with Pascal Giguère playing the solo violin, and my brother François Zeitouni playing the piano part also.
Well, I'm so glad we're playing this. You are in the Diamond Lane with me, Sarah Jo, and Jean-Marie Zeitouni, coming here to Winnipeg. Well, here now in Winnipeg, conducting this weekend the WSO's Organ Spectacular. We're going to talk a little bit more about the program, but first, Astor Piazzolla's Milonga dell'Angel. Just before the break, we heard Astor Piazzolla's Milonga dell'Angel from Les Violons du Roi, conducted by Jean-Marie Zeitouni, who is here with me, Sarah Jo, in the Diamond Lane right now. He's here conducting Saint-Saëns and Brahms, and a piece by Joseph Jongen I've never heard of before, and we are going to talk about that right now. So tell us, Monsieur Zeitouni, what can we expect from the concert tomorrow night and Saturday night?
Well, you can. I mean, the title of the concert is very well deserved, so to speak, because spectacular is what comes to mind.
Excellent.
That instrument at Westminster United, who was recently, renovated and improved and rebalanced, etc., is a wonderful, and I would say wonderful and massive instrument. The power, the sheer power, mixed with the orchestra. It's it's kind of, I mean, it's not only a power of sound, but a depth of sound that is, unprecedented. We were rehearsing, and I have lots of experience. My brother François, that we spoke about, he's also an organist, and so I was close to the organ repertoire all my life. I heard it, every week and every weekend at church, and there is something when you mix an organ and a symphony orchestra to a point where actually some romantic organ composers, I would say, from the 19th, but then the 20th century, they started writing organ symphonies for organ alone, because the organ itself is a full orchestra, that is going to be controlled by a single person. And so almost as if it was too much to pair the organ and the orchestra, they take, and we're talking about Charles Widor and all of those great organ composers who wrote for the organ alone, and exploring a variety of colors and mixtures that goes way beyond actually what you will find, for example, in the Saint-Saëns Symphonie avec orgue, which is great no matter what. But Saint-Saëns, he gives himself a limit where it is bearable to have an orchestra and an organ together. When you move in the court of people like Joseph Jongen, they basically, he plays the organ just like an orchestra, and then you have the whole symphony orchestra. So it becomes almost a battle of the band in the nicest way possible. But it really, at some point in rehearsal, I have the feeling of being the privileged witness to two full symphony orchestras dialoguing together, and sometimes even piling themselves up. And this is where it becomes because the organ itself, especially that particular instrument, has a brass section in it, and has a reed section in it, and a flute section, and a string section, and all sorts of these pipes that have colors that are copies. Call them older days samplers or whatever, but they are there to imitate voices and woodwinds and brass, etc. instrument, plus of course the acoustical, the real orchestra instrument together. So I'm not trying to diminish the Saint-Saëns in any way. It's a work of genius, and Saint-Saëns is to me a true genius of the French Romanticism. But in a Saint-Saëns symphony with organ, he will use 7-8 different color configuration of the organ to be kind of a more gentile match, although the finale, which is probably the most popular moment where the organs becomes really featured and almost authoritative towards the orchestra. In the case of the Jongen piece, we are going much beyond this. And then I was surprised that it works, because it's not a work that is very familiar. It was my first time also conducting it, and for the orchestra, it's probably their first time playing it, but it works in a way, but it's really bigger than life. I mean, the toccata, the finale of this Symphonia Concertante, I would be almost concerned if the city comes with the decibel machine count, and that's, we're talking like rock concert levels there.
Hardcore.
Absolutely.
Super metal, but it's so metal.
And it's not, I'm not meaning that it's any less musical in any way. There are moments in there that are, intimate and impressionistic and subtle and we could say even sensual, but when it's time for the bombastic stuff, believe me, you don't hear that every day.
Well, we're very excited for it. Oh my goodness, I have to go now. I have no option.
Yes.
It's like down the street from my house. I have no
Good.
excuse.
Actually, maybe you'll be able to hear it from your house.
Yeah, maybe I'll just sit out on my fire escape. Yeah, hey, but you're also, just as a quick aside, you're also playing the Brahms Academic Festival Overture, which is a bunch of student drinking songs.
Absolutely.
And
I love this piece, and it was actually, I also have another personal story with the piece, because that was my graduation piece.
No way!
I performed this at my concours exam, so the master's degree, the final examination when I was a student at the conservatoire, and my exam was to rehearse and perform that piece. And I had chosen it because, I thought it was wonderful to have, and the backstory is that Brahms is invited to receive some kind of honorary degree, and he is asked to write a piece, and he will write, and he calls it academic, to make it sound like it was going to be official and etc. Well, and then when you lift the cover and you see that the content, and it starts very dark and dramatic and etc. But in the end, it's a bunch of drinking student song, and this is that Brahms, that witty humor that you find kind of winking at the students and kind of mooning the establishment, if I may say, with this academic quote unquote festival ouverture. So I thought it's a lovely and plus it's a celebratory piece. It's not just a parody, it is also a great piece of music. So I had chosen it for my exam because of its value, and is obviously its connection to the students and to the graduation, but it works perfectly in a setting like this, where we're kind of having a party, and this is the warming up piece in a way, and then we'll after this segue into the organ, the concerto, so to speak, the Jongen piece, and then the Saint-Saëns symphony with organ. So it's it's a perfect program for this kind of event. Definitely.
Great way to get the school year started.
Yeah, exactly.
Amazing. Jean-Marie Zeitouni, guest conductor here, working with the WSO, and Sarah Svensson, and this Joseph Jongen piece, or Joseph Jongen. He's Belgian.
He's he's Francophone Belgian. And so I've been told it's Joseph Jongen. He would say, like this, but whatever.
I like it. We'll keep it.
Good.
Joseph Jongen and Saint-Saëns and a little bit of Brahms.
And just to mention, because I had to, Don Menzies, who has been organist at Westminster United, it's jubilee of 50 years as an organist, and he will be playing the Saint-Saëns organ part with the symphony. I think it's a nice way to honor his great contribution to the music of this city. So I thought it was important to give the little thumbs up to him also.
Don, shout out to Don Menzies right now. Excellent. Good. Well, and good luck to you, Don. I hope you enjoy it. And Saint-Saëns, I mean, it's just a great work. This happens tomorrow night and Saturday night, 8 o'clock at Westminster United Church here in Winnipeg, with the WSO, Sarah Svensson and Don Menzies celebrating his 50th year as organist at Westminster United. Unreal. For more information, you can go to wso.ca, or you can call their box office at 204-949-3999. Maestro Zeitouni, it has been a pleasure to have you here.
Thank
and
you.
Please come back soon.
All right.
Good. We're going to play a little academic festival overture to usher you out.
Sure.